Ensign Boimler searches for deeper meaning in the midst of his holo-movie sequel in Star Trek Lower Decks' 3rd season, 8th episode, Crisis Point 2, Paradoxus. Before I go any further, please note this review may contain spoilers, so if you've not yet seen this episode or any Lower Decks, this might not be the video for you. Let's warp into this. The Lower Decks gang enjoy some downtime participating in Boimler's new holo-movie to Mariner's well-received Rise of Vindicta. In the middle of the time-bending story, however, Boimler receives news that leads the ensign and an accompanying mariner off script, searching instead for the true meaning of life. Meanwhile, back in the main narrative, Tendi and Rutherford's quest through time leads to a potentially career-altering confession. Crisis Point 2 is a good time. It's a story that, much like the first, clearly has a lot of fun rolling around in the sandbox and lovingly poking fun at the kind of tropes that we so often see, not only in Trek's big screen adventures, but movies in general. It doesn't quite match Vindicta's surprising depth, character development, and emotional involvement, but as the episode itself repeatedly concedes, that was always going to be a tall order. Everyone has their favourite Star Trek. For many, it's the original series or the Next Generation. For some, it's Voyager or Discovery. And for a few with questionable taste, it's Picard Season 2. My Star Trek is the movies, so another Crisis Point was something I was really looking forward to when it was first announced. Much like the first, Paradoxus delights in replicating the epic, bigger budget feel of the movies, with moodier lighting and abundant lens flare, the return of real artifacts such as the projector cigarette burns, and of course, the letterboxing, which gives everything the appropriate cinematic feel and is the subject of my favourite visual joke of the episode. In true sequel fashion, Paradoxus attempts to raise the stakes whilst maintaining the formula that made the first so popular. As before, we get plenty of jokes that once again riff heavily on Trek's cinematic history. Weapons capable of galactic Armageddon, Wrath of Khan lover quarrels, busty baddies in revealing outfits, time travel shenanigans that are virtually impossible to keep up with, and very meta remarks about reboots and recasting. It's all here and highly entertaining, although the comedic potency will once again vary depending on your personal tastes. What made the first such a special episode was its surprising ability to provide substantial growth for our characters, with Mariner specifically feeling considerably more fleshed out, with her pattern of insubordination better understood. It was an episode filled to the brim with nostalgia, yet it was secretly one of the show's more forward-thinking installments. Unfortunately, while this episode would have you believe that's once again the case, it's nowhere near as effective. Where the first Crisis Point furthered Mariner's character, the sequel tries something similar, with Boimler playing on his long-standing neurosis and pressure to live up to expectations. Still, the end result is a bit of a mixed bag. We get heady concepts and Trek's old inner exploration motifs, but it all feels a bit surface level with no meaningful character revelation. I also had mixed feelings about Boimler's vision or dream or whatever it was. The use of Sulu was a lovely touch, something Trek wisely holds off doing more to make the moments they do roll out the OGs feel like a big deal. Sulu's words, combined with Nichelle Nichols' recent passing still being fresh in the memory, also gave the moment a surprising amount of emotional heft and is a standout moment of the episode and probably the season as a whole. But the setup, teasing an appearance of Kirk, felt like a bait and switch, made more egregious by some of the dialogue, which felt included to indulge the petty bickering that has unfortunately come to define the real-world relationship between George Takei and William Shatner. It wasn't needed, and it didn't sit well with me. A more pleasing switcheroo was Tendi and Rutherford, who made the most of the holo-movie, enjoying its time-hopping mayhem, which gave us some fun moments. I loved the jump to the mid-24th century, which gave us a tantalizing glimpse of the universe between Kirk and Picard's eras. I loved the randomness of the jump to Sydney and the punk fight, which felt like a blended homage to the first Terminator, as well as Kirk and Spock's bus altercation in the voyage home. Ultimately, none of this mattered, nor did it make much sense, but it didn't have to. Tendi, confessing her desire to become a captain, tied everything together quite nicely and gave the B-plot a surprising amount of meaning, making the whole segment much more enjoyable on a second watch. Boimler was right. His Crisis Point wasn't as good as the first. Its more profound moment had mixed results, but the episode was still a lot of fun, with its deconstructive, meta-heavy, Vindicta-verse format delivering more than enough to compensate for its lesser components. I'm giving Crisis Point 2 Paradoxus 4 stars out of 5. But what did you think of this episode? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more Star Trek content like this coming soon. Until next time, I'm the TrekLad. Live long and prosper.